going to chat with our friend Rick Santorum, who remains a force in the presidential GOP sweepstakes in the battle for the nomination, and betting on an Iowa surprise, which would be fun to shake up the punditry world. Our friend Rick Santorum back on the Common Sense Club and East Scott Hennen Show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Scott. How are you?
Fantastic, and it's been fun to watch what's happening down there in Iowa with your. I mean, you've given retail politics a new standard. You're hard at it, aren't you?
Yep, I'm heading to Sac County right now. Just came from Calhoun County, and part of we've already been to all these counties, but we're going back and for the second time to some of these small rural counties. But we just came from a little county, Calhoun County, and just got one caucus location, and we had about 25, 30 people there. At least half of them were not for me when they came in. They were all for me when they left, and we're gonna do really well in Calhoun County, and that's what you do. You just keep going out, and there'll only be probably a couple hundred people at that county caucus, and we've got now 20 people who will be our ambassadors there on caucus night. That's how you do it.
And you're north of like 300 events now that you've held in Iowa. Is that right? Is anybody even close to that number?
No, we've got almost 350 town hall meetings that we've done, and we'll just keep plugging away, and no one's really even attempting. That's the interesting thing. I mean, really, Michelle Bachmann announced that she was going to try to hit all 99 counties between now and Election Day, or caucus day, but no one's really even tried to run this kind of grassroots campaign. The idea is, well, we can do social media and do radio and TV appearances, and that'll be just as effective. And we'll wait and see whether the people of Iowa, have changed their stripes, and whether personal contact and getting a chance to really eyeball the candidate and get a chance to look into their heart and soul is still important for them.
How frustrating is it in the middle of this to have a good deal of the punditry, a fair amount of the establishment, and a growing amount, I would even think, of the GOP electorate, at least nationwide, seeing this as coming down to a choice between Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney?
That's sort of funny. I mean, what was 5 weeks ago it was a choice between Herman Cain and Mitt Romney, and 5 weeks before that it was a choice between Rick Perry and Mitt Romney, and 5 weeks before that it was Michelle Bachmann and Mitt Romney. I mean, it's just the flavor of the month. I mean, it's not to minimize Newt and Mitt, but the press just likes, they're lazy, and they like simple narratives. And the simple narrative is, well, those two guys are hitting the poll, and therefore that's who the race is between. They've been wrong 5 times already this year. You'd think there'd be a little bit more humility in trying to proclaim what the race is about.
Poll numbers largely drive that. I mean, do you, in the case of Iowa, when you're doing 350 events and doing this really eyeball to eyeball, knocking on doors and doing it, the old-fashioned way with the retail politicking, does that not capture where the polls, do the polls not have an opportunity to capture that? Is that part of what's going on here?
I think that's accurate because this is a caucus, not a primary, and very, very hard to poll caucuses accurately. And you're probably going to have in the state only about 120,000 people come to the caucus. This is a state of close to 3 million people. So you're talking about a very small sampling of people, and these are the hardcore activists, and those are the folks who come out to town hall meetings, and these are the folks that are guaranteed to come to the caucus who have gone in the past, and we feel like we've focused our attention on where the votes are. You've got Rick Perry running $2 million of ads, Mitt Romney running $2 million of ads. I was talking to millions of people when the audience is trying to get about 30,000 votes, and you're going to win this thing.
Not to sound like a card-carrying member of the mainstream media, but is Iowa make or break for you? I mean, is it ultimately you're counting on a surprise finish there that'll wake everybody up?
Yeah, I think we have to exceed expectations here. I mean, we're sitting, pretty much at the bottom of the polls across the country. We're here in Iowa. We're still finishing, at the bottom, but we aren't behind everybody now, if you will. We're within a point or two of Perry and Bachmann. Last poll, we were within 8 points of Mitt Romney. and really, only 11 points out of first place in the most recent poll. So, 13 points out of first place in the most recent poll. So it's not like, someone's way ahead and we're this far behind. We're very much within reach, and 3 weeks to go in a caucus, and the work we've done, and the grassroots campaign that we have, and the presence we're going to have at the caucus sites. Remember, I was just in Calhoun County, and they've got, I think, 4 or 5 precincts, but they only have one caucus location. So wherever you are in the county, you have to come into the county seat. You have to come in on a Tuesday night, and in January, probably be a little chilly, and you've got to spend an hour and a half listening to speeches, voting for party platforms, and then writing your name in as to who you want to be for president. And that's a commitment of time and energy. And we think the folks who are the most convicted are going to show up, and we feel very good that they'll be our folks, because we're the strong conviction conservative in this race. We're the one that is laid out the clearest plan and has the record to back it up.
Conviction conservative, is that what Newt Gingrich is missing, or Mitt Romney, Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, or Ron Paul? I mean, is that the game changer that differentiates you from the others?
What I've said is that I think it does differentiate me from everybody. I would give Michelle Bachmann her due that I think she is a strong conservative, but I just think Michelle's a good person, but she's been in the House 4 years. She hasn't really done any major work in Washington to show any kind of leadership or ability to bring things together. And I can tell you, I served 4 years in the House of Minority. I certainly wasn't ready to be president of the United States, and didn't have the experience to be able to do something like this. And I just think that it's experience and leadership and the ability to bring people together to get things done that are conservative in nature is a differentiating for us between Michelle and myself. And also, look, because you're a neighboring state there, she's had tough races every single time, and she represents a pretty heavily Republican district. And we've been able to win Democratic districts, districts where you need to get swing voters. We've won big states, ran big campaigns, and have gone up against the toughest in the toughest states to win. And I think that's another differentiator between me and everybody in this race.
Part of Newt Gingrich's rise has been selling himself as the conservative alternative to Romney, and it sounds like you're making the case, at least with Iowans, you fit that bill a little better. I want to talk a little bit about the role that social conservatives generally play in Iowa. They've sort of been written off by, again, a lot of the folks in the punditry, and I want Rick's take on whether what's going on there, if there's anything to that. We'll take a quick break, come back with more of our conversation. Senator Rick Santorum in the GOP sweepstakes for the presidential nomination in Iowa. Well, Andy Williams, Christmas music for you on the Scott Hennen Show on the Common Sense Club. Chatting with Rick Santorum, who has been called the third senator in Iowa of late because he's living in Iowa. And the family's along, right? You got this has been a family affair for the Santorum clan, right?
We've got a couple of kids with me. I've got my son John and my daughter Elizabeth, who have been on the road with me for the last couple of weeks, and we've been mixing and matching different members of the family coming out. But this is a commitment. It's a huge commitment of time and energy. But look, obviously our country's worth it, and this is an honor and a privilege to be out there and have this opportunity.
A lot of people have written off the so-called social conservatives, which, in the heartland of America, I'd argue is just, neighbors, just people. It's just, but of course we're kind of put into categories by the crazies in the media who invade us at the presidential nomination time and everything else. But some folks suggesting that, the economy has sort of crowded out all the other issues that normally play a role in Iowa. A lot of folks saying, Huckabee obviously did what he did last cycle because of, social conservatives, and now they don't care anymore. They only care about their pocketbooks. What do you make of that narrative that's being written?
Well, it's just false. I mean, that's the narrative, of course, that the mainstream media wants to write because they don't share the values that the heartland does on these issues, and so they'd love to be able to point that out, that somehow or other these issues are not important, so that there isn't a mandate when the next president comes in to make any changes that they would feel uncomfortable with. But I can tell you the people out here in the heartland that there isn't a town hall meeting that goes by where I don't get the question about life or faith or marriage, and the importance of God in our country. And then people understand that if Americans are not leading good and decent and moral lives, that if we don't respect life, that our country's going to break down, and that government's going to get bigger, and taxes are going to get higher, and freedom is going to be restrained, and God won't bless this country. I mean, either we believe it or we don't. I mean, do we believe that God is blessing this country if we don't? And do we believe that God will bless this country no matter what this country does? And of course, most believers, say, yeah, we believe God is blessing this country, and most believers think that if we step outside, dramatically outside what God is telling us to do, then obviously there'll be consequences to that, and I think we're seeing them.
On the issue of the Holocaust of abortion, an issue that you've been a tireless, a champion for the pro-life cause here, the spectrum between, Mitt and Newt and the remaining candidates for this GOP prize, give me the game-changing differentiator between you.
Well, I mean, again, I'm someone who hasn't put these issues on the back burner. Someone who's been, again, consistent. I didn't when I had a position of authority, didn't push these issues out of the way. I fought for them. I was a leader on the floor of the Senate on every major pro-life measure for the 12 years I was in the United States Senate. I was someone who worked with the pro-life community. If the evangelical and pro-life community, had an issue with respect to life or to marriage or to freedom of conscience and freedom of religion, I was the go-to guy. I was the guy in the leadership that everybody came to. And in fact, in 2005, Time magazine listed me as one of the top 25 most influential evangelicals in America, which was great because I'm not an evangelical. I'm a Catholic, yet the evangelical community saw me as the point person. That's what they called me in the article. That was the only person in that list of 25 influential evangelicals who was not a pastor. So if you're looking for someone who actually walks the walk and has been consistent over time, and I would say that most of the people in this field have not been consistent. In fact, most of these folks do not have a particularly good record on life, either voting for it or standing up and fighting for it and making it a priority. And I'm not just talking about life. I'm talking about all the moral, cultural issues. And if you want a fighter, if you want someone who's not going to, is not going to cower and try to minimize these issues, there's really only one person in this race that has a track record that'll show you that we've done that, and we put out a very clear vision. We put out on our website, you see a 25-point plan as to what we would do to try to advance the cause of traditional families and faith and life in America.
By the way, is your reference to pushing those aside to Newt Gingrich while he was Speaker? I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that those were not priority issues. Newt's modus operandi when he was leader was to try to push things that had, broad public support, and so he pushed partial birth abortion, which did. But by and large, he would stay away from all of the moral cultural issues, and because he just didn't think that they were winning issues for him and for the cause. And sometimes you fight not because you think you're going to win, but because you need to make the point and build the base that is necessary so you can win someday. And that's the approach I've always taken. Even though you may not win, fighting the fight is sometimes just as important as winning the fight.
Sad statistic, and I actually thought of you when the stat came out because you are a champion of these issues, but married people in America has plunged to a record low of 51%. What did you make of that number?
Well, look, I mean, we continue to devalue marriage, and guess what? You get less of it. We continue to have a culture that and a government that doesn't lift up marriage and say that this is an important element of society, that men and women coming together for the purposes of raising children is not just one of a variety of different options of relationships. It's the best relationship for children. It's the best relationship for a culture. It is every survey, married people are happier and are wealthier, are healthier. All these statistics. If you want to you want to change America overnight, if you want to create an opportunity for people to stay out of poverty and do well economically, there's two things you need to do. You need to finish high school and you need to get married. You do those two things, you're not going to be in poverty. You're going to have relatively good health. You're going to be an important and vital part of the community. Those are statistics, but it's also what it's. It sort of makes sense that you have the education you need to be able to be successful economically, and you're in a stable relationship. You're committed to somebody else. You're living your life not just for you, but you're living it for something greater than you. That your wife and your children and your community. These are the essential things. It's not to say that that families that are being raised by single moms and single dads aren't doing a great job, and that these single parents aren't heroic figures, and they really are. But it's harder. It's harder to do the job of two people with one person. And so what I think most people are now coming to recognize is that this is part of the reason that we're seeing the breakdown of society. This is why we see government getting bigger. Is because it has to pick up the pieces of where the families used to be able to provide for the economic and cultural well-being of our communities and our families.
Well, it's great catching up with you. I know there's yet another debate, last one before Iowa tonight. Last debate, you got a chance to mix it up in there good, so we'll be rooting for you again tonight. And
thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Let me just, if I can, put a plug in for our website, ricksantorum.com. We have a money bomb going today, and it would be great if folks, I was just listening to your commercials, and I know, just like in North Dakota, you've got your oil and gas industry out there that's booming and transforming the economy of North Dakota. We have the same thing in Pennsylvania with Marcellus Shale. You got the Bakken, we got Marcellus, and it's transforming the economy of rural Pennsylvania. And so I know folks got a little bit extra in their pocket. Maybe if they could, they'd be kind enough to open up those wallets and help us out to make sure that we have a conservative